tough to listen to that. Sometimes we feel like we're out here on our own on an island.
It's because we don't brag as much about what we do.
Is that what it is?
I think so. I think we haven't in the past.
Oh. Everybody ready? Mic's on. Call this work session to order. Wednesday, May 7th. Open for visitor comments.
I know the drill. My name is Stephen Topaz from St. Helens Street. Last time I was here, I asked what were the preferred or wanted type businesses on the properties, waterfront, the paper mill, and so on, and I really got no definitive answer. And since then, there was an article which requested comments to the state because of the Armstrong sealing plant, sealing tile plant being closed, and they were looking for money to investigate the toxic waste problem at the sealing plant or the Armstrong plant. With the part of the article mentioned that any toxic waste would be dumped into the cooling pond, or they had discussed with this city of St. Helens to use the cooling pond as the repository for the toxic waste. So I assume that the city of St. Helens has opened up the possibility to other people rather than just to the port of Portland, the toxic waste dumped of the cooling pond. But I still haven't gotten any other descriptions of possible businesses or entities to go onto those properties. So, and I know there was comments requested by the state, I think it was the 2nd of March. If that was the case, have you received any feedback from the state entity? I think it was the DEQ who was asking for this. Thank you.
Anybody like to respond? I really don't have. Go ahead.
No, I just was going to say this is time for testimony and time for the staff to look into that situation and possibly get back to Mr. Topaz at some time. So this is testimony time.
Okay. Any other visitor comments? Okay. Discuss trail easement at 24080 Gable Road. Jacob.
Okay, thank you. Exactly a year ago, which is an interesting coincidence, at least a year as far as when the council meetings, last February, the second council meeting, I had a memo for the same thing, and this is the other half of it. So on Gable Road, you probably noticed there's a house that was moved there, and it's been sitting there a while. They're slowly working on that, and then right next to it is a house being constructed. And largely because of the timing of the adoption of our Parks and Trails Master Plan, we're able to fortify our code, make sure that important passageways are preserved. In this case, it's trail number 16. There's an error in here. It says number 18. That's wrong if you actually looked at the parks plan. But this is a connection between Sykes and Gable, and it's midpoint from what I call a mega block. This area of land bordered to the north by Sykes, the south by Gable, and then the highway on the east, the boulevard on the west. This mega block has a perimeter of 8,700 square feet approximately. If the city was a clean slate, we didn't have property lines, today's standard would be 1,800. And if it's more than 600 feet long, you're supposed to have a bike and pedway. So fortunately, with the Trails Master Plan, we're able to make sure we get easements to reserve passageways. There is a passageway that students have been using for, I think, years and years. And what we did on these two houses is get a 5-foot trail easement, and so combined, we have a total of 10 feet. A year ago, we got one half, and now I'm here to talk about the other half. I went out there the other day to see how it was working, and the house being built from the ground up, they already have their fence up, and it's set back 5 feet, so everybody seems to be honoring it. And when I was out there, there was a student who's actually using it. And so basically what we're doing is preventing this area from being closed off, so we still have this passageway. So the reason I'm here now, normally for easements, we don't need authorization from the mayor, but these trail easements have a little bit more to them. There's some obligations of both parties. In our case, insurance. Last year, insurance people didn't have any issue with it. So I just want to be able to explain that so you understand what is before you tonight. And that something seems to be actually working in conformance with our plans.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, review proposed billing insert program. Matt.
You have a one-page report in the council packet that outlined a few things and a recommendation from me looking over everything. The recommendation is at the bottom showing the options that I would propose to be put into the fee schedule, along with the two different sets of fees for a for-profit business and then a non-profit business, based on the costs that I received back from Metro Presort on doing billing inserts. Are there any questions, or do I need to go through the reports?
No, I don't have any.
I tried to keep it as simple as possible, which is always a good thing. So we at least cover our costs for nonprofits and then make a little bit of money for the for-profit business.
We had a couple of inquiries recently. Are we going to get back to them and let them know?
Yeah, I will get back to them and let them know once I get the consensus. And
I didn't have a chance to study every single word. Is there a size of the billing insert?
I am proposing in this to keep it to one page, basically.
One page, 8.5 by 11. One
Correct,
page,
8.5 by
page,
11.
A third of a page. You know.
Yeah,
just wanna make sure that it's
I kept it
defined.
just one page, 8.5 by 11. I wrote on the report to my recommendation would be to not break it out between half sheets or quarter sheets, because that's more time management as far as staff trying to get in contact and work out businesses that have used images, the copyright of those images, and all the kinds of editing that may incur. So just doing it one page and having it in the guidelines to, we're basically just forwarding this on to Metro Presort. We're not doing any editing or anything.
Oh, it's so like there would be a maximum number of inserts per billing cycle.
We can do a maximum of 5 inserts, so 5 actual pages. That could potentially be 10 businesses if you do one side and then one on the other side.
Do we want to think about the impact of having that much information going with our water bill?
The city council could easily just kind of decide, and generally, we only want to do 1 or 2 at most, or for mailing reasons, for postage, you can put up to 5.
I just not thinking about money or postage, but thinking about priority of the bill is to service our customers. So I want to make sure what we're sending out, my standpoint is that it needs to be a good representation of the city, and it needs to be our mission. And our mission is not to advertise. Our mission is to take care of the customers. So that was kind of my hook question. My thought process is just thinking about the bill way, because I get credit card bills that have inserts. The important part of the bill, what comes in the envelope, is on a full-size sheet of paper.
Correct.
The ads are on smaller pieces of paper. So it doesn't compete and doesn't look like the person billing me has made these copies.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a distinction. When you open it, it's like, ooh, this is on the regular paper, this is my bill. All this little stuff, those are ads. So I just wondered if we want to think about what that looks like, because I don't want anybody to be confused that their water bill looks exactly like a department store ad.
With talking with Metro Presort, there would be an added cost if you decided to do like half sheets or quarter sheets and actually cut them. So they're, 1/3 or whatever it is. There would be an additional cost to that for Metro Presort to do that specifically and separately and then add it into the bill.
So I don't know how the other council feels, but I had the thought that there would be 6 pieces of paper in my water bill is concerning to me.
I think if we keep it simple, and if somebody wants to come to us, they can either come to Matt, and then he can bring it to us, and we can definitely regulate that. They can show up here, but they don't have to. They could probably just run it through Matt, and he could say they're asking for approval of this flyer to be inserted.
So with the general process, when somebody wants to do this, we'll just submit it in the packet for the work session for a
Yeah.
general consensus.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds
What
good.
do you think, Kathy?
I'm thinking of being the devil's advocate and thinking, how are you going to decide what can go in and what can't go in when you have all kinds of,
Sure.
it's got for profit, and when you send something in an envelope that is meant to be from the city of St. Helens, it's going to look like you're somehow supporting
Endorsing it.
or endorsing that particular business.
Why don't we just do nonprofit?
That would be my recommendation.
Mm-hmm. Let's just do nonprofit, because it's not going to get too complicated.
Makes it even easier.
Yep.
Yeah, I was envisioning all kinds of awkward possibilities.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Well, I mean, because it's a pretty good mailing list, and so I thought about, cell phone providers, all kind of stuff that are targeting this area, and it's a slippery slope.
What about the possibility of using it for city purposes?
That's
Oh.
what I was going to recommend.
I get a city newsletter in my utility bill, and it's on a different colored paper, and always comes with the utility bill, but there's all the city's news in there, and it's clearly a newsletter and a bill. But I mean, I know we ask people to sign up for the e-newsletter and the Gazette, but we have a captive audience with the,
When communication
bill.
is,
and I
That's
can
something
think
we
of
always
lots of
get
library
feedback
things
on.
I'd like to advertise.
Margaret's got 5 pages
So
already.
Matt, so how many copies is that price up there? I mean, is that for all the people we bill?
Yeah, that's for all pretty much 4,500 customers.
So that's at cost for the nonprofit?
The at cost is just shown above. If Kathy scrolls up just a little bit.
Okay.
I like round numbers, so
Yeah.
the 486 was rounded up to 500. The 621 was 6.
So under 500 for like the library to push something out, or Cocoa
Yeah.
with a Cop, or
Yeah.
somebody like that, something
Yep.
like that. That's pretty inexpensive, really.
Yeah, to reach 4,500
Yep.
roughly customers. That will now be every month.
Is that number 486 for just one page?
That is one-sided black and white.
Okay, and that's just one page,
Correct.
not 5 pages.
Correct.
Okay.
and I guess here's my weird question. I wouldn't think that if it's an 8.5 by 11 page, and they give you the copies, why would it differentiate whether there was ink on one side or ink on both sides?
Cost.
You got to copy it.
Yeah, for Metro Presort to actually print it for the
Oh, so they're not going to bring you 500? and
correct.
hand it
No,
to you.
to me that creates even more of a
Yeah.
dysfunctional possibility
Yeah.
of somebody didn't deliver them on time, and then we've already taken their money, and too many possibilities of issues for actually a nonprofit printing them themselves and taking them to Metro Presort. I wanted to try and keep it as simple as possible.
So here in that nonprofit and city stuff only. Right? Okay. Matt, you're still up.
So in your packet are the RFPs for the municipal court judge and prosecutor. They were essentially the same as last time. I don't see any issues with reposting, pretty much the same thing. Do you have any comments or questions about what's going to be going out? Once I kind of get the consensus and approval tonight, these will go out in probably about 4 or 5 different places online, as well as I will physically deliver them to some people that I know around town that may be interested in a judge or prosecutor position. So I will hand deliver those to some of the attorneys around here and other people that have expressed some interest.
And it'll go to the Bar Association.
Correct. Yep. So I just want to make sure before it's on tonight's consent agenda. So I wanted to make sure there were any changes or anything that you wanted to see.
Nope.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right, review draft transient room fee ordinance. John.
Okay. So in your packet here is we've been working on this a while, is essentially an overhaul of the transient room fee ordinance for the city, which is otherwise, the hotel tax is another common term. And it does have some impact on rates, but more substantively, it addresses the, kind of brings it into the 21st century here. It hasn't changed since it was adopted in 2001, and the culture of the world and Airbnbs and Expedias and things are now on the scene where they weren't back in the day. So when you go through this draft ordinance here, you'll see it's a strike through an underlying version of the current ordinance, and it attempts to address booking, accommodating those types of services. So people could do Airbnb. There's an inspection process bedded in here to that. You go through a registry with the city to get qualified for that. There's a fair amount of changes here. I should probably highlight what we're striking as well. And there was some conflicting language in the initial ordinance between the tourism director and the convention center and things that was thought to be the purpose of the fee at that time. But so you'll see that as you go through it. On the rate is currently 7%. It's been 7% since 2001. We were advised by, interestingly enough, some hoteliers that thought the rate was not really commensurate with the market, and that there was some opportunity there for the city to take and do more with their tourism funds. And they recommended a rate of 10% being kind of the minimum kind of break point that would be acceptable. And you'll notice that there's some important, the hotel tax, the history of the hotel tax since 2001 has been kind of a roller coaster of events in the legislature, up and downs, and what you can use the money for and can't use the money for. And being that we adopted it in 2001, there's some pretty good safeguards in this ordinance that we're amending it rather than repealing and replacing with something new that allows us to retain that vestige of uses that we can use the money like we have been using without some of the constraints that other cities have. But the new piece, the 3% increase, does have those constraints because it's adopted after 2003. And that is that 30% of that goes towards, or 70% is dedicated towards tourism, 30% go towards the general fund. In our history, 100% has been going towards tourism. So we're already in compliance with that. The second piece is that the administration, the hoteliers it was 7%, but they were, and this is kind of a math quiz, is the hoteliers could keep one of the 7%. So it's 7% fee, but they get to retain one of those percentages. So it's not 1%. They don't get 1%. It's more like 15% when you do the math. So changing the methodology to the state's recommended methodology is 5% of the fee. So it should net out pretty close to the same because we're increasing by the rate by 3%, and then they're getting 5% of the rate. That's a little confusing. But there's also exemptions that weren't in our code otherwise until now, and some of those are government and public institutions, emergency shelters, like people accessing Red Cross or some in crisis kind of mode wouldn't pay that tax at all, not just the new, any of it. And then federal employees are exempt also. And there's some other care facility. The exemptions that were there before are still in place as far as mental health clinics and things like that, group homes, that type of thing.
How come federal employees are exempt from tax?
To ask the legislature, I don't. I can't
That
answer
just-
that.
Take a wild guess.
Yeah.
So how do they go about levying the tax on booking agents? Travel agents and people.
Well, we're currently getting it. Some of the uplift.
Do we know how? So that we know if we're not?
Your Expedias and Pricelines, and for a while there we weren't, and then I think it's coming from the state level.
I'm just wondering where the accountability is on that.
Yeah. Well, the accountability comes from the hotels producing their ledgers to show the room bookings.
And how they were done.
So this ordinance also memorializes that 9% will go towards the general fund, which works. It's already part of our budget. So. I talked a little bit about the registration process. There's some fire safety health inspection. That's pretty common if you go to stay in a VRBO or something like that. You'll usually see some kind of certificate of acceptability. So we did invite the hoteliers to participate. I don't see anyone from them here, but they are aware of it. So. And understand, they actually are maybe I'll conclude on the whereases here where it talks about one of the whereases, the last one says Travel Oregon has estimated that every dollar spent on advertising generates $237 in visitor spending. So they can see that increment of tax or fee dedicated towards marketing communities is really pretty powerful. And it's on the agenda tonight for the first reading. So.
Does this cover like camping? Since we're thinking about opening up Sand Island.
I do not recall any specific mention.
I don't see anything in here on that.
Would you be? Well, that's a good question. But you're bringing your own tent.
Well, I mean, if somebody starts running a business over Sand Island, and there's a campsite there, and it rents out for a certain amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same as staying in a hotel.
Not quite.
Depends on what you
A
like.
little rougher.
Yes.
Some people it is.
I wouldn't imagine, I don't know any places who have camping with a tourism fee attached.
It doesn't mention it, but I can, in between this meeting and tonight, I can answer that question or attempt to get an answer to it.
It's up to you guys. It's more money. It's money. It's an opportunity for money. So.
I'm looking at the definition of a room, and it doesn't mention anything.
Not quite a room.
Quite.
Not space.
Yeah, I think a building is implied. I know that in a few different places where I've stayed where they haven't had campsites, but they've had yurts and they've had cabins, that there was a fee on that. But I think if you're bringing your own dwelling, I think that most people would find that to be the exception. If they put yurts over there, that would be the same as a room. But if you're bringing your own room or sleeping in a tent under the stars or laying on the ground, that doesn't constitute a room, just to me.
Well, in that same vein, Keith, we don't want to go the extra mile and start putting a room tax on the homeless where they set up their little places as well. I mean, it gets to a point where it can be kind of ridiculous, I think, after a bit, if people are camping out, living without a shelter, with, you know, sleeping under the stars, doing whatever. I don't know how you could legislate that.
Well, open camping is totally different than a business that's set up for renting out campsites and the like and whatnot.
Well, if it's
And
hot,
yurts and cabins would
Yeah.
be a different
and
category.
if we travel down that road in the future, we could always put that in part of the agreement, right?
Sure.
I mean, as far
Amended at that point.
as for the owner of the property, but we get that.
And I think we'd get pushback if we had an RV facility as well with that, because they're bringing their own room and with their RV.
And they're already paying.
Yeah, I just think that it cause more pushback kinds of issues than what it's worth.
I just brought it up.
Good.
Do what you want with it.
Interesting question.
John, I have something, and you might want to reflect on this. With our vision of looking at enhancing tourism in our community, with that in mind, and with the concept proposals of a hotel being established in our riverfront district, a 70-room hotel or whatever, maybe you can reflect a bit on any conversation that you might have had with those individuals who are proposing that hotel, what their attitude is with the additional tax, tourism tax,
Sure.
room tax.
Well, first of all, I'd go back to every dollar spent on advertising, it generates $230 some dollars in visitor spending, and a lot of that's in hotels, the hotel rooms and their meals and the activities they do while they're here. And in our discussions with the developer, they recognize that, and they recognize the city's role in tourism and how it drives their business model. And by the time we get done, they want to make, well ensure that we have the resources we need to be able to ensure that activities and events and are happening to drive that, making those investments to benefit not just the hotel, but the entire waterfront and the businesses and all of it. So, as a point of reference to how it, this compares to other areas, that's always kind of an interesting metric. Portland's in about the 15%-ish. You have a blend of the state tax and the city, and some counties have taxes layered in there too. I think Washington County right now is going through their blended is, city, county, state taxes about mid-13s, I think. Bend, I think, is up towards 18%. So, but look what they've done with it. That would be the other side of it. Look how amazing.
After you made the comment and I thought, oh no, we're taking all this money, I went and looked at all the reservations I made in the last 3 years, and there's literally one that was under 10%. And that was 4 years ago, and that was Rockaway. So, they're all 10. They're all 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, I'm curious, how much do the coastal communities they charge? Have you done any research on that?
I think they vary.
I mean, we're not the coast, but
Right, but the last time I went, because Seaside, Cannon Beach, Rockaway, all of those were over 10. They were all, and that's been 3 years.
all right.
So that was, kind of, we're not the coast, but
Yeah.
towns of about our size.
I would, size maybe isn't the metric. It's just, level of activity. It might be.
Yes.
So when we're a river destination,
So I hope that answered my question. I think it did, but,
Well,
you know, I just wanted to know the attitude of those individuals
Yeah,
who were,
they felt it very important. I mean, it was.
good, okay, thanks.
Okay,
And very supportive too. I'll say
Yeah.
that.
good. Thanks, John. Okay, discuss lease of fair building lot. I do believe if you want to come up and state your name.
My name's Tracy Murray, and I'm here to possibly get some information. I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to read the email that was sent out
I did.
regarding.
Yep.
So I think it pretty much states right up front what we're looking at or asking, or what your guys' thoughts are on this.
Well, so it was brought to our attention by one of our citizens, a business owner.
Right.
And so it opened up the door of the discussion, and most certainly don't want to see you guys shut the doors. I mean, you are serving the community as far as people are getting healthy down there.
Right.
But we have to find a medium somewhere that we can at least justify, you know, why we're doing. And I'm opposed to a long-term lease agreement,
Right.
just because of, like you wrote in the email, future development.
So what's long-term?
Well, that's a good question. We haven't discussed it. We've been
Okay.
waiting for you.
Well, we had talked, John and Matt.
Yes.
It was like like a 1 year, 2 year
Yep.
ongoing type of thing. Because at that time it was mentioned, yeah, it's might be developed as something else, which that's understandable.
And my only issue with that was giving a year's notice. If we decide to do something else with it, I still think that's a long time.
Yeah.
But how long has Sparta been there?
A really, really long time,
Like-
probably back in the 80s.
Yeah, I want to say,
I'm just
At least.
just thinking, for being a decent person, I wouldn't want to give anybody not enough notice to make other arrangements, because you have been there a long time,
Right.
and we don't want to be bad neighbors. The only question I had is,
I don't think that's common for a commercial rental, though. That much notice. Hasn't been in any,
So
I got a
what's
question.
timely notice then?
to be discussed.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering how the general public knows that you are accessible. People in the community that I asked, they say that that's just for Cascade employees, and I said, no, I think it's for anybody that asks. And I didn't know if you did any marketing or information, or, because I've never been in your building. I didn't know if somebody went over there and knocked on the door, if they could get that information there, so people know that it's not a private club.
That's a huge issue because it does look like a private club.
Okay.
And a very exclusive private club. There's no, no, really.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, is
And
there
there's no advertising, there's no
Right.
nothing. It's like, what is this
Yeah.
place?
It's basically a word of mouth type of thing.
Right.
That's my point.
Right. But when the mill closed down, because back when the mill was up and running, there were enough people that would go there, you know, that it worked out fine. But once the mill closed, then, well, even before the mill closed, we allowed it to be open to the public. And so I don't know, we never advertised it.
Why not?
We didn't really have a need to do that.
But in fairness of our community, wouldn't you think that it's important to invite all of our community to that kind of facility to join it? Or is it going to remain, pardon me, is it going to remain exclusive?
Over the years, we have had, you know, open houses. I mean, that's probably been years ago, but like you said, we never did put out a big banner or anything like that
I
saying.
didn't say big
Come on.
banner. I just said advertising and just making it aware of to the public.
Because it's public
I
property.
didn't say big banner. I
So
did say-
advertising such
Advertise-
as in
add some
the,
kind of-
the
some-
newspaper or?
Well, whatever.
Phone number on the.
So that
door
people
would
have an
probably be a good
awareness of
thing.
how to
Yeah.
become members.
I
if they
think
want
maybe
to.
the door does have some information. It's pretty much a self-run place.
Right.
So,
That's how you keep the costs down.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I understand I belong to different clubs and stuff, and I know that's a minimalist kind of gym. It doesn't have all the amenities, and it started out as an employee benefit, and that's no longer the case. So we're just
Right.
trying to make, with the benefit you have, match with public ownership. So it's not, we just want to make sure we're being fair to the taxpayers, but we don't want to be, bad landlords.
Right. So as it stands now, with everything up in the air, there are things that we need to, like equipment we need to replace.
Right.
But it's like, we don't want to do any of that stuff right now until this all gets, figured out.
Right. And I don't feel like any notice less than 6 months is acceptable. I think
I'm
that
okay
it-
with 6 months, just a
it's
year
just-
sounded
I don't
long.
want to do that. I have never met you before today, but it's like you guys are essentially volunteers doing this. You're not making money doing this. This
No.
is not for profit.
Right.
And you're doing this for your coworkers and that's how it started out, and I don't want to demean that team effort. So I definitely appreciate that, and just we're here to work together.
Okay, sounds good.
Originally, how did Ferris start?
I don't even know if I was working at the mill then when this all started. So Janice Walter, she would have more information on that, but it's just, I can't really speak to that so much.
Just curious, how come it was enterprise as far as a nonprofit, and probably for maybe tax purposes for the Boise employees if they wanted to donate, or was it for Boise itself, a tax write-off? For some reason, it was created because Boise had all the money in the world
Right.
to open a facility. So that being said, I'm just curious of what was really behind the motive of starting Farah.
I don't know if it was started for people to be healthy, that worked at the mill, and give them the opportunity to go up there. Because at one time we did have a lot of people on the board and lots of discussions, but like I say, that was years and years ago.
Yeah.
What I recall is that it started out as a few guys going up there and playing basketball with each other, and it just kind of evolved from there. Or they put a little bit of equipment in there, and it just kept evolving from there.
So one of the expenses that might be worth exploring is your status, because a qualifying nonprofit wouldn't have to pay property tax, and that's one of the major expenses with this, and like churches and things like that.
Right.
But that's not automatic. You have to go to the county and make that application.
Would you have any recommendations for the city council, myself, and my constituents here, of how we deal with our citizens when they ask us, and they know that it's a city-owned property, and how we deal with justifying what's happening there with the questions that have been arisen by some individuals on paper now, and again, just reiterating what Rick said, that's why we're here now to this point. It's because the citizens have come to us, and I don't have an answer. What can you tell me? I mean, can you tell me how I can work through the issue so that they can see that it's a fair kind of appraisal, a fair kind of answer that I'm giving them?
Money-wise, is that what?
So whatever the citizens are going to ask, they're going to say,
It
how
always
can
it always boils down to money.
yeah, how can
It does.
Yes. it
Yeah.
does.
So in a discussion we had a few months ago, we had talked about, $1,200, possibly $1,500 a year. So that was what was brought up. So the thing is, if the price is going to be too high, like it states in here, then it just won't even, we'll just end up closing the doors. But if we got something that was reasonable, I mean, we paid last year's taxes and the taxes before that, so we felt that was good standing that we did that. But as far as, you know, paying a large amount of money, you know, like I say, we're just a real small facility and self-run, and if we had to do that, it would just pretty much drain the bank, so.
So it sounds like from what John was saying, that if you were, as a nonprofit, if you were to make the request to the county, that there wouldn't be property taxes that they have to pay, is that right?
I'm not gonna,
Maybe?
that's a maybe.
It's a maybe.
Because there's certain levels of nonprofits. that
Something
have
to
it-
explore.
That have that, and others don't, so.
Ah, okay.
So the lease that we had worked on was a cost recovery. This is the city wanting to be made whole, so we're at least not paying for fair to be there. That was our base premise. The lease that, and it adds this $1,500 a year, which doesn't seem like very much, but it's just for maintenance, you know, things that
Yeah.
any landlord would have as far as responsibilities of taking care of the property.
Right, because we do all the maintenance, and you know, it's pretty low maintenance actually, but
The, you know, the year termination notice, I think, you've heard me talk about that before. The reason that we talked about that was because any development that would come through would probably have a year of gestation period to get to a point where they're, you know, tearing down buildings and moving things.
But we've also talked about other uses for it that wouldn't require that.
That's true. So you could still do a year lease or have 6 month termination
yeah,
in it.
I think
So,
6 months.
so it's all about the numbers. What are we talking about number-wise? That's what I wanna know. Are they gonna pay taxes and pay $1,500? Is that what we're talking about? I mean, I just wanna know.
That was the initial discussion.
Right.
That was the initial proposal when
That was,
we went out, as John mentioned.
Taxes
It's
are
kind of
what,
a,
probably 3,000?
I believe it was 22,000 or so,
Something like that, yeah.
maybe no more than 2,500
Correct.
per year. And like she said, she did pay this current past year and the year before that, because we were originally thinking that Boise or Cascades would pay us back, and we finally heard back that they weren't going to support it anymore because it wasn't a private facility. And that's what started this discussion. But yeah, the main cost is the tax is about 22,000 or so a month or a year, and then pretty much no maintenance on our part for public works staff or anything. There was a request from them to ask for help for painting the building. They feel that it needs to be painted. We are here to discuss that as well, and stuff like that. If I can ask though, you kept saying a reasonable cost. What is a reasonable cost to you?
A reasonable cost, I think, would be what we discussed earlier, be somewhere between $1,200 to $1,500.
So,
Okay, and
What's
how-
your membership there?
The membership is, I was gonna grab that piece of paper and I forgot it, but I think for a single person, it's $25 or $30 a month. And for a couple, I mean, you know, a couple could be me and a friend. So it's, you know, not real stringent on that. And I think that's about $40 or $45 a month.
So you don't have numbers by chance of how many individuals are members there?
We have approximately 100 members that are full-time members. And so when the summertime comes, some of those people, you know, will leave and they'll put it on hold and then they'll start it back up when fall comes along.
I want to go back to the property taxes. How much did you pay in property taxes?
I think it was like $4,300 for 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I was just curious, Tracy. So I know the Boise employees at the time, they got a really discount for being. So now that Cascade's not contributing to you guys, did you raise the fees for the Cascade employees?
We didn't raise the fee for the Cascade employees, but it used to be retirees from Boise. it was free, but we waived that, so now that they have to pay the cost of individual or family. We also have family, so.
Does everyone pay the same amount?
Mhm.
Yeah, even Stanton
Yep.
Public.
Yeah.
So Tracy, how many people could it support if you went out and did a lot of marketing on it?
That's a good question, because back in the day, we didn't really want to open it to the public, because when the mill was still there, but then, when it closed, then we decided it'd be a good idea. We even went to I think we did put something out, to the schools, the fire station, maybe the city employees also, but like I say, that's been years ago. But I think at one time it was brought up that, hey, we're here for open enrollment, and anybody in the community is welcome. So, like I say, that was quite some time ago, but I think we did try to approach, like the bigger entities, such as the schools or places like that.
And successful with that?
No. Like I say, it's been many years ago, so.
So I just trying to wrap my head around what I'm hearing here, and so you paid $4,300 in 2 years of taxes.
So $2,200 a year. That's what I was doing too.
$4,300 for 2 years, right?
Mhm.
You had 2 years,
Approximately.
and then you've done the upkeep, but we have not got any other money other than you paid the taxes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's less than $100 a year or $100 a month.
Mhm.
Now you can see why we had a citizen coming to us with a 6,000 square foot building that's right on the corner, of wondering why we are letting this nonprofit. I mean, $250, $300 a month. I mean, I don't think that's too much to ask. I mean, I don't, that's way low. And
That is low.
we were quoted a price of commercial property at 50 cents a square foot. I think of
That's
roughly $2,700. I think is what it was, real close to that.
Storefronts
A
over
month.
here are more like
month.
$1 a square
So
foot.
yeah. So that's why we're having this discussion.
So is the citizen, his business is to make money, I assume? I mean,
We're
that-
answerable to any citizen though that comes
Yeah.
in.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But that was just, I think it was stated in here,
Mm-hmm.
we're not in it to make money.
Yeah.
I would say no. I would say the citizen who came forth came to us out of ethics, out of
Right.
our way of governing for the citizens of St. Helens. That's where that person might own a business, but he doesn't certainly own any kind of business like that.
And other nonprofits also pay.
So yeah, I will say this because I know for a fact the city leases to another nonprofit on the building up on 6th Street, the old J.C. Hall, which was built on their dime as well. J.C. Hall.
Okay,
Yep.
yes,
So the J.C.'s built that place, but I know for a fact that they rent it for $250 a month.
okay.
Okay,
Mm-hmm,
$100 a month, under $100 a month for a facility that's twice the size,
right.
maybe 3 times the size.
We have the gymnasium, but it's hardly ever used. That's not.
But even the regular area is twice the size. The gymnasium is probably not quite, because it's a long building, wraps around.
Right.
I've been in there before.
Was
Played
someone
volleyball.
from the city gonna go measure that?
We did. We had one of our public works people go and actually physically measure the building because the tax assessor didn't have any information.
Right.
We didn't have any information. It is 6,234 square feet.
6,284,
234.
34.
And I did just check. The taxes that were paid were 4,800
Okay,
for those 2 years.
Okay, so $100.
And at 50 cents per square foot for that 6,200, that would be $3,117 per month.
Wow.
One thing we haven't talked about is the insurance of the building. The city does insure the building, the contents, I think,
yeah, we have
your
insurance.
insurance on
Yeah,
those. I don't have a cost on that, but it's amalgamated or it's in our
We have good coverage for that building, or that, for insurance purposes.
I do want to revisit some maintenance issues on the building as well. It needs painting.
Yes.
What else does it need?
There's some things that could be done on the inside, but that's things that we're gonna take care of. So basically just outside maintenance, I guess.
You know, before, this interesting talking about this, but before I make any kind of decisions myself,
Right.
and weigh in on this, it'd be interesting to see your ledger sheet
Okay.
of your money, your income in
Mm-hmm.
and your income out,
Okay.
and see what your expense sheets are all about. That certainly would help me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that we do further investigate this a little bit. I'm not ready to make any type of decision on this. But we understand that, you know, you do serve the community as far as if people do want to go work out there, it's very, very affordable. $25 a month and 40 a couple is very, very affordable. And I know
It
it is.
wasn't 25 a couple.
Yeah, I had no
25,
idea.
25 for a single, 40 for a couple.
No,
And
it's
I think
I thought you
it's
said
50.
30.
I think it's 50 for another
I
person,
can
too.
get the actual paperwork that has that on there.
Yeah,
but I
please.
think, yes. Okay.
It's been a while since I've been out there and pulled on the door handle, but the last time I was out there, I recall there's no phone number, I mean, you cannot tell.
Okay, I'll go look at
what
that.
it is whatsoever. And, so that
Okay.
my point being that
If it's
appearance,
open.
appearance of it being open to the public
Sure.
is really,
Okay.
And I
can't
think
tell.
even if you and Janice would like to meet down the road, I think a couple of us could probably find time to definitely do that with our staff too. We need to look at that building.
FARA is an acronym for what does,
Fitness and Recreation Association.
had no idea.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know.
Yeah.
We were guessing.
Maybe the people who go work out like down in Columbia City or the other places, maybe they inquire. I don't know if just the regular old citizen wouldn't know that, like you say.
I did inquiries and 2-3 years ago, and
Uh-huh.
it was going to be $40 for me and my daughter.
Right.
I price compared, and it was almost 80 at another one of those places that you mentioned. And so I think that, you know, as we run the risk, because those are private businesses and they pay taxes and they have employees, but at the same point, you have to look at how many single income families that maybe a health club is beyond their financial means, that if people knew about your place, you know, that people that don't make 80 grand a year, people that make $40,000
Right.
a year might decide that a health club membership would be a public service. And that's what I look at as a nonprofit. A nonprofit usually provides a service. And you are providing a service, just a lot of people don't know.
Right. And so when you sign up, you get a key fob. That's what you use to get in and out. We do have an age limit that I can't remember what it is now. 16. They can't go in without a parent. They're not allowed to, you know, run around.
Sure.
We do have cameras up there. We've never had any problems with any break-ins, damage of any sort, except for somebody ran into the side of the building one time, put a humongous dent in it.
Are you subsidized by anyone other than just membership? I mean, like insurance companies, health insurance companies?
Nope. It's
And the other,
simple.
I know that the other ones in the county are. And so that, I mean, that's my membership into the Columbia City one is through my health care
Right.
insurance.
Mine without insurance.
We don't have that. We
$29.
don't have the means to take care of any of that kind of stuff. There's no one there, and I'm retired, and it's just simple.
Okay.
Thank you for the additional information. That
Sure.
gives us more to go on and
Okay.
kind of a next step.
We'll definitely be in contact.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
That really helps. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank
Yeah,
you very
thank
much.
you.
Okay, department reports. Perry.
I just want to make sure the community knows. Now you got me doing it.
Oh, no.
Going
Anyway.
around.
Plague.
Let me start over. I want to make sure the community knows that they're all invited tonight to Burgerville between 6 and 7 for a free cup of hot cocoa. We'll have another cocoa with a coffee event tonight. And we hope that lots of folks turn out for that.
I would love to be there, but I'm not going to show up like this. I showed up last time, but
We'll both be coughing.
yeah.
Anyway, it's going to be a good time. We got a great turnout last time that we did it. Lots of kids and families showed up. And anyway, tonight between 6 and 7.
Sue.
I don't have anything this afternoon.
All
Thanks.
right. Neil? Okay. Margaret? You're not on, Margaret. There you go.
No, I don't particularly have anything to add. We're just continuing. We just finished up our interviews and our selection process for our open position, and it's very close to being ready to make an offer.
Okay. Matt?
I handed out a report to you with a couple graphs and the back page as well for the court department, just to give you a quick update through the end of February of where we are as far as revenue and expenses. So I'm happy to answer any questions there. I did mention on the back a couple things that we are working on. And then also in the last paragraph, I'm requesting to come back to the council at the next meeting with a proposal for a part-time term limited position through end of June to help out with the court department. We've had a couple change in processes just recently where it's requiring a little bit more work on behalf of Melanie, who was helping out keep Ricky above water. But with Melanie now taking on April, now in utility billing full-time. In the budget, there was originally 2 days per week for April in the budget to be part of the court department. So I'd like to use some of that funds to help pay for that position. So I believe it is already funded, but I don't know 100% sure. But I'd like to come back to you at the next meeting when I have more information and more solid numbers to make that request for a term limited position. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Sounds good.
Do we have a retirement date for our judge by chance?
I have not heard 100% if she is going to officially retire or not.
Do you have an eligibility date?
Well, the judge is technically already retired in PERS, but she has not told me for sure or not if she's not going to reapply for the RFP. I have not heard for sure yet.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all I had.
Thanks, Matt. Kathy?
I just have a few things. I was got called by a salesperson from a company called Public Surplus, and they have a program online that allows you to add, like if we have surplus items, we add them to this international program, and it's very user friendly, and the sales are all driven by the buyer. So the buyer is the one that pays any fees that are involved, and it's a 7% fee on top of whatever you buy, whatever the price of the item is. And I talked to staff about it, and staff all thinks it sounds like a good idea. And so I was going to run it by you guys to see what you guys thought about it. It would be minimal staff time. The idea would be to have, like, let's say Matt has something that he wants to sell. So he would declare it surplus with you guys, and then he would send a picture and information of it to somebody who would be the main go-to person for the surplus. And then that person would just post it on this website, and it goes out as an auction. So it's like online for a certain number of days. And then the person who's the buyer has to actually purchase it through this program, and then they have to come and pick it up wherever it's located. There's no mailing. There's not really much go between.
Good.
Do you remember what the name of it is? Because I get an email from something like that, but I think it's just Oregon.
It's called public surplus.
Public sur-
Oh, you're getting the ones from the state.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's totally different.
different, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so there would be no cost to us. It would be, the idea would be to have Becky be the person who would be able to spend some of her time doing that. But it would just be trying it out. If it becomes too much, then we don't have to do it anymore. It's not, there's no contract commitment to it at all.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least it'd bring in a little bit of revenue for some of the stuff that we get rid of. Okay, the second thing was on last week I went to the CIS conference. Carol and John also went, and we won an award. And it's not really an award, it's just like, it's for length of membership. We've been with the Employee Benefits Services Trust for 60 years.
Wow.
So they gave us this little award.
Nice.
It's a nice recognition.
Yeah. And then I got called for grand jury, so every Tuesday I'm going to be spending some time over at the courthouse. So just
Lucky
in case
you.
you need me, that's where I'll be. That's all I had.
Thanks, Kathy. John?
So I'm gonna pass out this thing on opportunity zones and talk about it as
Yes, I'd like to
as
know
it
more about
comes
that.
around there. So back in 2017, the Federal Tax and Jobs Act established all these new incentives to encourage long-term investment in low-income communities designated as opportunity zones by the U.S. Treasury Department. And so essentially what it is a program that allows 86 census tracts in the state of Oregon to be nominated, and there's qualifying criteria, to be nominated, and the governor can nominate these as basically tax havens, and people can do their 1031 exchanges, make investments within the zone, or they can invest in the zone and have tax savings. So, it so happens that our tract that includes the waterfront property is within that zone, which is so it's within the property rate. So it would, at least conceivably, is from our perspective, is very eligible for this incentive, and it's it's federal taxes, so it's very indirect as far as the impact to, we're not abating property taxes or anything. A lot of the incentives we offer as a community are giving our own taxes away, not the states, but the local property taxes and things.
So what's the benefit?
Property, it offers an incentive for private investment.
Okay.
Most shortly. Yeah.
But we don't know how much, or, I mean,
We don't know if we'd be
percentage-wise.
selected. We don't know if we,
I
I think we have a lot of really good projects in our horizon that would be very attractive to
Yeah.
Okay.
these types of things. And I can see, good, stable projects that have return on investment. And
See, that's what I meant by benefit. I didn't mean a dollar amount. I meant,
it's definitely a tool to help some of our
Thank you.
plans come to fruition.
Yeah.
And it's a very brief application. It's literally in my inbox ready to press send, but there's the narrative, and it's kind of one of these boxes that doesn't let you print everything. So you can see most of what the application, it's the census tract is 9707, which is kind of takes in the waterfront, basically the whole waterfront. And hoping that that's acceptable to the council. I can't imagine why it's not.
Well, I think it benefits anybody who wants to come do future business with us. They get out of paying some federal stuff.
Good work.
you're trying to mark up my house again.
Right. I have to comment on the Mr. Topaz's assertion of the Armstrong, or his characterization of the DEQ notice for Armstrong. He used the word toxic waste. I ticked off at least 5 times there. And the city is not entertaining being a toxic waste repository. The Armstrong settlement is for their, there's a history of that site that goes back 80 years at least, and there's environmental impacts on the property and in the waterway that Armstrong is the last of these tenants, the most recent. Owens Corning and Kaiser Gypsum being before them. that have wanted to settle their obligations so they can be done with it. And they've been working with DEQ on an amount, and it's, that's really all that is about. It's not the city taking toxic waste. So.
Grain of salt.
But if the public hears that, and I think that's important to know that that's not inaccurate. So.
Well, the public has heard that over and over again with quote-unquote testimonies coming into our council chambers and asking us questions to respond and respond immediately off the top of our head with accusations that we aren't quite sure where they came from. And so that I hope I didn't diffuse that by saying go ask staff, and that staff would be you. And because in a sense, how do you answer those kinds of things? You don't. And if you read through our agenda here, it's for testimonies, and it isn't for discussion and questions. So I'm glad the mayor's running a meeting to where it doesn't open up into a big ballyhoo of a discussion and an argument. But we do hear his testimonies, and we need to sort certain kinds of things out. And hopefully he'll get an answer to his questions that he was asking. But I noticed that as well, John. I mean, I noticed that the word toxic comes up continually about our property, and so I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Actually, I don't think he's looking for any answers.
He's got them.
We do have a topic of executive session. It's not on the agenda.
Yes.
I don't know. The sheet that used to be right there, I don't see it for the numbers.
Well, we take a break now anyhow.
We take a break.
Yeah, yep.
But
we're good.
Just so the public knows that there's an executive session and the number and.
Yep. Oh, you're just getting Kathy ready?
Kathy's looking it up. So.
Yes. Anything else, John?
There's plenty. It's been really busy. There's a lot of positive things happening.
Food bank. Food bank.
Yes. The food bank has requested, thank you, Jenny. The food bank is acquiring the property on Columbia Boulevard, and historically we've provided support to the food bank, financially.
So it will still be a feed store.
No.
Yeah, well.
Feeding people.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
We're feeding people. So, Casey
A
Wheeler
reporter like that.
Doing away with their pellets.
Casey Wheeler, the director there, has reached out to the city for resource support on assistance in helping them write a community development block grant, which would community development block grants go up to about $1.5 million. I think that's the frame of their project to renovate those buildings. Not only just a pantry, but it's a distribution center for the region. And he's shared some of the numbers with how many users of the food bank there are, and it's just astonishing how highly utilized that place is. The ask is that basically in lieu of financial support, that we have Jenny Dimshow help Casey write that grant. Which competes with other community development block grants that we are also working on at the same time.
It does, but my understanding is that those are really going to take longer to develop maybe anyway.
Say that again.
It's not really competitive, right?
The food banks project is much more mature than the other, as far as.
So maybe we can use extra time to
develop it. I had a question. I know that things are very hectic in Jenny's core duties, which are not writing grants for the food bank. And so I want to know what that pressure means to the planning department and to her other jobs.
It's a good question.
Because it's just really heavy, and bringing you on staff came at just the right time.
Mhm.
And we have huge projects in the hopper right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm meeting with Casey on Friday to discuss what the scope of work would entail. It sounds like he will more or less be responsible for writing the grant, and I will review it and offer my guidance. So I think the food bank is still going to take the lead, and we won't be managing the project. If we're successful with the grant, which I hope we are, we will not be managing it post-grant. So that's good, because managing federal grants can take a lot of staff time. The other aspect of this is, the guidelines for the next cycle haven't even been announced yet. So we're planning ahead, which is really helpful. We're not like down to the wire trying to get this thing in. And so we can manage our time. As I have capacity, I can work through the grant application. So it's not like it needs to happen right this second. So I
Yeah.
think it's doable.
I mean, the food bank's a great cause, but I'm not willing to pull the rug out from under Jacob and the planning department.
Yeah, I would never sacrifice my core duties for something that isn't city run. I think that we can manage both.
Is anybody else familiar with the other block grant we're talking about? I didn't think so. So the 6th Street ball field, the Alano Club would be an expansion, possibly a bathroom for that ball field and playground equipment, and looking at the development of that road, that funky road up above the where the Alano Club is now, which is our city building. So it'd be like a bunch of different things, and then with Carl's thing going in, maybe that's a city-owned property. So that's, John kind of looked at me like, this is benefiting the food bank, but this is a city-owned property too that we'd be competing against, right, Jenny?
Yeah, it's worth noting, the city has a lot of potential projects that CDBG could support. And so often federal grants are awarded regionally. So it's unlikely that Columbia County would get 2 grants in the same cycle. That being said, the food bank's lease closes the middle of this month, as I understand. And Casey has given about 1 to 2 years to gather the needed funds to renovate the building. So theirs is a really critical need in the next very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it could be made that, that's a county-wide need that could be prioritized over something that's pretty theoretical at this point. CDBG funds are targeted towards low-income populations, and you have to be very specific about the demographics of who uses your facilities, and I don't know that we have all that background document prepared at this point. It would just take a lot more time to bolster our application for a 6th Street Park improvement project. I still think they're both valuable projects. I just think the food banks is pretty cut and dry.
You mentioned city-owned property. Tell me about that. What's city-owned property? Which one are you talking about? I mean, we know that the 6th Street Alano Club is city-owned property. Were you talking about the existing food bank, the new food bank? What are you talking about?
No,
Neither.
I think Rick was talking about the 6th Street Park as being a public.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Alright.
the Columbia Feed and Seed is going to be food bank property.
Now, will that, with all this moving and whatever, could the real estate deal fall through?
No,
with
they're-
Case?
I think I'm meeting with him for the first time Friday, but he told me over the phone that they're closing on the property already. So I think
Okay.
they've
good.
purchased it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically what I'm saying is if we let Jenny do this, then she's gonna get it for them because she's good at doing what she does, and
That's the
But there's no guarantee that we get it for the other project anyway. And to me, not that it's not important, it is important,
Yeah.
but feeding people, to me, is a higher priority.
so I just wanted to state this for the record, that the Alano Club serves CCMH, drug court, DHS. It's had high school senior projects there. It does AA, NA, GA, OA, SA, It does a lot of different things. It's completely open to the public. It does karaoke on Friday nights at 7 o'clock. If you want to come sing, it's free. They ask you to donate into a can. Part of that being said is that the Alano Club, you know, we pay the $250 a month, but we pay everything else too. Has struggled. We don't get assistance from anybody, and the meeting space is not. There's only 2 rooms with the partition wall we put in, and it needs additional space. Now the bathroom at 6th Street Ballfield used to be there years ago. Was old concrete. That park needs a bathroom. It needs at least a playground structure of some sort, maybe between the trees, and that parking situation has to be figured out. Sue, you look confused. So, that being said, that park is not sufficient for what it serves also in t-ball, soccer ball, just people in general playing with
Yeah.
frisbee, flying airplanes there, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we need more time to refine the scope of what the CDBG funds would be used for at that park. And that way we can involve Public Works and engineering and Parks Commission and make sure that we're putting together a good package.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it clear of what it actually does. You know, I know the food bank gives a lot of food and it has a lot of people coming in and out of it. I do understand that.
And I'm not arguing against the other project. I was just thinking CDBG grant happens on a regular cycle, so maybe we can just catch the next cycle with it and then not be competing against the food bank.
Right. And I don't know that I would have capacity to help manage the project after we get it for ourselves at this point too. I think it's bad timing, and I'll also get it to kind of understand the process of this federal grant through another agency. So it gives me kind of that learning experience without having to do the outcome of the grant.
Sure, and just so council knows that this was talked about back when Chad was the administrator, and because the senior center was done that way. Just so you know that it was already discussed at the Alano Club, and we actually, out of our own funds, have a drawing, and I gave it to Jenny, of what the proposed expansion of the building to be. So, and she has that information. Just so you know, so it's not lost. Something, you know, comes up.
Yeah.
That you're familiar with what we're talking about. That's why the reason I brought it up, as I didn't think anybody here knew, and you didn't. So. Okay, I'm okay with that.
Cool.
Everybody else?
Are you changing subjects?
No. I'm asking.
Don't gavel yet.
I'm not going to gavel. We still got to do council reports. Okay. All right. Councilor Locke.
Nothing today.
Okay. Councilor Carlson. Okay. Councilor Khan.
Arts and cultural, we've been working with our chair, vice chair, and Matt on looking at the budget past and present and getting them all up to speed since they're fairly new. And we also have started a process, well, we'll be soon interviewing for open positions. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Council President Morton.
Many things on the parks agendas. One of the things, and we heard much testimony about the problems down at the marina, the situation where people camping over on the island and derelict boats were vandalizing and stealing material from the marina and marina people who were renting spaces there for their boats. Hopefully we have a solution for that, and I've been working with Brad at the marina to work out a solution, and a lot of that deals with the possibility of the camping over on regulating the camping on Sand Island and tightening things up so that we have strong a strong grip on who's there and for how long, and basically keeping track of the people who are camping there and making them accountable for their actions. So hopefully we'll work some kind of deal out that you'll hear from a proposal of working that out for camping. I know Keith alluded to it earlier about the camping and a bit of the revenues from our tourism, but that's neither here nor there on that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is Brad going to be making a presentation on that?
Pardon me?
Is Brad going to be making a presentation on a
That's-
proposal? that
Yeah,
we
so
all
it's
see?
what he will probably do is come forward and give us his idea on what he thinks will be functional for the city and for the marina and for cleaning up the illegal kind of camping that's going on and the derelict boats and all of those problems.
Okay.
So we can look forward to that here soon. Matter of fact, I was talking to Sue about some of the issues that we have with the Marine Board, exactly of what the restrictions are for individuals tying up on the docks over in Sand Island and here, and what the Marine Board's restrictions are all about. Brad needs to know about those kinds of things before he can go forward with his ideas.
Okay.
So we'll hear about that as a concept shortly. What's real about the parks and our design, our plans is and very exciting. And Jen just left. I met with Jen and Andrew Nemi and individuals from the veterans groups, and it's the McCormick Park Veterans Plaza. And wow, am I excited about that. So there's a $100,000 plus expansion of the plaza to be done this summer, by this fall, so that we are up and out of the gates as soon as we possibly can. And that will be we'll celebrate that on Veterans Day at the ceremony there. It's very exciting. Tonight I'll give you a proposed concept plan at this point. Actually, the plan has been fairly well defined, with all the costs, with the materials, everything there, with the timelines of construction. I'm very excited about that.
Sounds like it.
It's a long time coming, and it's going to be I think something that we'll be very proud of, and it'll also be a huge addition to McCormick Park. I think it addressed up that parking area and the Veterans Plaza as it exists now. I'm excited about it anyway.
Thanks, Doug.
Could I have a quick go back?
You sure can.
I have two things I forgot. One of them is that there's Columbia County Job Fair on April 6th. If anyone is interested in participating in or knows someone who's looking for a job, or a vendor, a company that needs employees, that they're invited to participate. And also, there's been a group of us that have been working toward, having a discussion about the feasibility of the city and the school district working together on a project, and we're continuing to meet.
That was one of the things I couldn't discuss last night.
Yes, I know. Recognize.
So I don't have much to report. I just would like to, I think the possibility of partnering up with somebody on the marina would be, an example. Last year there was a boat parked at the dock on this island, and they camped overnight, and they woke up and their boat was gone. They found it 2 days later behind the little island with the motor off of it. So if we can definitely start placing that, most of it stemmed from the homeless boaters down there. And so if we can, Sure, Terry.
Doug reminded me, and then you've brought it up again, and I just want to remind the council that, remember, it wasn't until late last summer we moved our code enforcement officer to work Saturdays. And I heard some really positive things from folks that live down there and use the boat, that use the marina, about having his presence down there on Saturdays. And so our plan all along has been this coming summer to have him down there on Saturdays throughout the boating season. I was kind of roughly thinking May-ish. I just want to remind you that will happen again, and it's coming up very soon, that we'll have him down there on Saturdays, and hopefully we'll see some of the same results that we saw last summer.
Yeah. How would you feel about, having access to not a boat, but a ride over to the island at any time for your officers to get over there? Because that would be part of the deal.
That's always been a struggle for us. And we use the sheriff's office today. I mean, if we had to get over there now, we'd use the sheriff's office. Yeah. But it's, we get by. But it's always been, for as long as I've been here, a struggle for the police department in terms of policing the island without a boat. But, yeah, I mean, we get over there. We'll get it done. But anyway, I just want to remind the council that we do have a plan in place for code enforcement. These derelict boats, homeless campers, et cetera, et cetera. That's all on our radar. And the plan was for the boating season. What we thought was going to happen last fall did, and that is, around to October 1st-ish, we started to see a real decrease in activity over there, so we moved him back to his normal Monday through Friday. But the idea always in our back pocket was, once it starts to warm up and we start to see more traffic over there, we'll move him back to the Saturday schedule. And I saw a lot of benefit from that last year, so we'll do it again.
Okay.
I'm glad you did it. I don't want to steal your
Go ahead.
thunder.
No, go ahead.
It's your report.
Go ahead. I'm actually not reporting. I was just making a comment. Yep. I'm getting ready to close this.
I'm glad you brought that up, because code enforcement has been long in my sights in terms of, ever since I've been on the council, of as many people know, during budget committee time, funding a code enforcement person, and it's been very important to me, and I think it's being handled very effectively at this point. One of the things that you brought up was the issue about citizens and people talking to you, and I had a meeting with the mayor of a small town in Colorado, Durango, Colorado, and we met for an hour. And I called him up, and it was like one of your deals, have coffee with the cop. It's like, have coffee with the mayor. Well, I'm the only guy who showed up, so we had a great talk. And one of the things that they found that was most effective in their community was that they had a committee that dealt with code enforcement, and it was like a citizens committee, an advisory committee that dealt with code enforcement issues. And I thought, wow, that would be really kind of a neat thing, to take a lot of our code enforcement kinds of things out of this room and get it into the hands of some concerned citizens who might want to be interested in doing a code enforcement. Not only that, the mayor said that changed things around in their community quite a bit. And then the other one was an ethics commission made up of citizens in the community that dealt with ethics issues. Now, those were ethics issues that he said, and they're busy all the time, and just with bringing about ethics issues throughout the governing policies of the city, and he says it's rubbed off into their county as well. So the Ethics Commission, being made up of individuals, is something that I will probably propose to the council. Kind of think about it, talk to me if you care to, but I'd like to put that on the agenda, if council approval, to talk about an Ethics Commission and a Code Enforcement Commission as well. Thank you.
Okay, one thing I do have, and that's we need to have a retreat sometime soon, so let's think about picking a date for council retreat. Sometime in April work? Everybody?
Hold on.
I'm looking.
April's fine. Jenny's our work bee here, and so that's the one issue, when you can get time off and work through those kinds of endeavors.
Late day one last time.
Mm-hmm.
Did that work
At the
for
water.
you?
Late day work.
4 to 8.
How,
Yeah.
I have, IT training is the 9th through the 13th, so that's a bad week for me.
Yeah. If it's late, with the exception of Mondays, I could do it.
Thursdays work well for me. And Wednesday on the, yeah, Thursdays work well.
So we got the 5th, the 12th,
I can't do the 5th.
the 19th, the 26th.
What are budget committee days?
Oh, that's a good question.
The
Tuesdays.
5th. No, there's a Thursday. Isn't there?
17th and 24th. And what else do I have in here? And the 3rd of May.
The 5th isn't one of them?
April 5th is one.
Yeah.
That was the one that I requested to add. Then we have April 17th and May 3rd.
So we can't do the 5th, then I can't do the 12th.
Okay.
I can't do the 5th.
Okay, what about the 19th?
That's fine.
Does that work?
The when?
Oh, boy, that'll be a busy week, though. That'll be budget committee, a council meeting on Wednesday, and then
I have a library program.
3 in a row. That's going to be, I don't know, do we want to do that?
26th.
26th? Everybody okay with 26th?
I have a library event that day.
What time?
6th to 7th. Yeah, it's different. Yeah. How about Wednesday, the 25th? Wednesday work?
Wednesday?
You good?
It's fine for me.
I'm okay.
The 25th?
Yeah. 5:30? Do dinner again? Or 5?
No, let's do it a little earlier. What time do you get off?
I cannot do before 4:30.
So maybe 5?
Yeah, I mean 4:30 I can do. No 4
I think
o'clock.
that's
No
what we had
4:15.
last time was 5, wasn't it?
Yeah, because that gives me plenty of time.
We have to know if John can do it because it's Administrative Professionals Day, so I don't know if
Is it
John can
really?
do it.
Yeah, it could be a party.
Well, he can be administratively
I
professional.
serve at your pleasure.
I serve at the pleasure of the council.
We have to have cake
Okay.
for John.
So I'm gonna. Kathy wants a minute here, so I'm gonna turn it over to her, and then
Bring the
we'll.
band.
So I just noticed that executive session was not added to the agendas, my erroneous mistake. But we will have executive session under ORS 192-660 sub 2 sub E, real property transactions, and sub B, consider dismissal of a public officer or employee.
Okay, so we're gonna adjourn and take a break.
Won't be here on the 5th.
You won't? You will.
I didn't get that.
Is this
If I did, I
remember
because
we
I'm
talked
in
about
Montana.
this?
Oh, I
Is this
thought you
something
said
would put
on
5th
the-
was okay.
like, is that a retreat thing?
No.
Remember?
Well, it doesn't-
Oh, 5th. Oh, 5th. Budget committee, okay.
That's something we do.